Well,
Dr.
Mr. Will Wagner,
Will. Okay.
Sr., was the early ticket agent for the railroad company. And his brother, Mr. Dan Wagner,
All right. Dr. Wonder what that R is for. Rutherford. Daniel Rutherford.
came home from St. Louis with the McFarland men who had been up there buying plantation supplies.
Oh, the McFarlands were already around here, huh?
Oh, yeah. And remained here. The war was about to begin.
Uh-huh.
The two brothers, Will Wagner Sr. and Dan R. Wagner, both joined the company and went from Water Valley to
Both in Company F.
15th.
Yeah, Company F. 15th Mississippi Regiment.
As you can see, they were here prior to the war.
Yeah, that's right.
They had Andy Wagner and Henry Wagner. What else in Pennsylvania I have a name. Henry and Philip. Well, I knew Mr. Philip.
Was he a brother to Dan?
And Andy all remained in Pennsylvania where they were reared.
Mm-hmm. And that was, what was the name of that place?
I can't tell you.
Freeport, Pennsylvania.
You know what county it's in?
No.
Well, now Mr. Philip Wagner and Mr. Henry Wagner were both in the Union service, but I don't know about Andy. I can't answer that.
Philip and who?
Henry.
Henry. Oh, that's the one I missed. So you had part of that family in the Confederate?
Not in the Union. Now, soon after within a few years after the close of the Civil War, Mr. Henry Wagner brought his family to Water Valley, consisting of his wife and their 3 children. Wait a minute now, Miss Florence and Hiram and Frank.
Oh, was that?
Edward, the 4th child, was born after they came to Water Valley.
Oh, Miss Florence was born in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Right there. Florence and who now? Ed?
Hiram.
Oh, yeah.
And Frank, who died as a child.
Mr. Hiram Wagner.
He was nephew.
There you go. Florence, Hiram, Frank, and Ed.
After the death of Mr. Wagner's wife, Carly, he married his wife's sister, Miss Mary.
So often they did that.
Married Miss Mary Tilden, who reared her sister's family.
Tilden. It's a prominent old name in some parts of the East.
Oh, they had a relative with that,
Ran for vice president.
Hendricks from Tilden.
Yeah. Now, did you know Henry Wagner in your life?
No, he died. He and his wife died in their 30s. Now, if you want to get the names down, go back there and put W.B. Wagner. First married. She's Dr. Young's daughter. married Miss Callista Young.
WB. DR or W? Mr. Dan married
But they married sisters. But
Oh.
Mr.
WB.
Bill Wagner married Miss Callista Young, daughter of Dr. John Young. Dr. and Ms. John Young.
Yeah. All right, now that's when, yeah, Calista.
And she died early.
Did she have any children?
She died in childbirth, I think. She had a child. I don't know how childbirth was responsible for it. Later, Mr. W.B. Wagner married Miss Molly Buford.
Oh yeah, that's where the Bufords come in. It's Molly Buford.
They had 2 children. W.B. Wagner Jr. and Gallatin Wagner.
I never heard of him. I knew him.
Oh man, he was a wheelhorse in his day. He was a man established a Wagner grocery company in Memphis. They said he'd stay in the house the first 3 days a week and route all the shipments and things. Maybe they got in the latter part of last week and get out on the road in the last 2 days of work days to sell more goods and then sell them when they had on the road.
You mean they had a company in Memphis?
He organized the Wagner Grocery Company, and it stayed in business till the chain stores came about. Mr. W.B. Wagner married Miss Mamie Heron. W.B. Wagner Jr. you call her.
Minnie Helen? Minnie?
Now, Mr. W.B. Wagner married Miss Mamie
Oh, Mamie.
Heron, H-E-R-O-N.
Helen, yeah. Well, now, was she a Water Valley family or some of those Kosovo Herons?
No, she was not related to those Herons.
Oh.
They lived over about, I tell you, she and Ms. Claudia was her sister, and they were reared by Ms. Mays, and their uncle, Tim Beatty, supported them, had the boat of Ms. Mays. You ever hear of Beatty Switch?
Yeah, man. Sure have.
And they were reared by Ms. Martha Jane Mays.
Now, you say, what was their relationship to Bailey Switch?
Old Tim Beatty was their uncle. Joe Boston used to tell me about Tim Beatty.
Tim Beatty.
Yeah.
Well, they sure Bailey Switch. That was originally on the train, on the railroad, it called Beatty's Farm. Beatty's Farm.
Well, it might have been, they might have originated down there. I didn't know that. I see, that's the generation ahead of Miss Mamie and
Yeah,
Miss Lula.
I bet that's what happened. And her name was Mamie, and Lula Heron married
Walter Clyde.
Walter McCullough. Right. Well, now, you know, well, let's see now. We got Will Sr., or WB, and we got DR. We got Henry up here, and he comes down, and he has Florence, Hiram, Frank, and Edward.
On that old space over after you got the WBs, you're going to get the DRs.
Yeah, DR. Now, there's about 5 or
You put
6.
them in there, you going to put them in there, you got to room up.
Yeah, and he married,
He married Miss Gertrude Young. Gertrude and Mariah. I don't know whether I'm right about that, but it's Mariah, Gertrude and Mariah. I believe it's Gertrude and Mariah on that tombstone. Young,
all right,
daughter of Dr. and Mrs. John Young.
and they had George was the oldest,
No, John was the oldest. John Henry.
John Henry.
And then, as the boys came, George, George initial, George what? George A. was, what was A? G.A. Wagner, George A. I swear I couldn't tell you right now what it is.
Andrew, I guess.
I believe that's right, but I wouldn't swear it.
I'll just put an A there. All right, that's it.
And then Eugene. Now there were 3 girls. It's Jessie E. Wagner.
Is that Elizabeth?
No, I think it's Eunice.
I just put Jessie E.
Yeah.
And Callista.
And Corinne.
Corinne.
Let's see, what I knew Miss Corinne's name. Corinne. She had the name of the boat that the old Wagners came from Germany on. And
Oh.
but I can't get that now. Miss Corinne. Can't come up with it. But the third one was Miss Callista. K-A-L-I-S-T-A, Callista Wagner.
C-A-L-I-S.
K-A.
Oh.
K-A-L-I-S-T-A.
Oh, K. Oh, well, then this one back up here is K then.
Oh, yeah. This one was named for that one,
Yeah.
And Miss Corinne was named for an aunt, too, that died. Corinne Sims was another daughter of Dr. Young. She and George Sims died when they were about 32 or 3 years old and looked like they might have had tuberculosis. Now, that'll take quite a list if you get down to their children. I don't believe we went down any further than the children before of the original men.
Well, let me get them now. I got John Henry. And Miss Jessie never married. Corinne married who?
Miss Corinne never married.
Never married.
Never. Miss Callista married Dr. Hood, who taught in Davidson College in Davidson, North Carolina.
Yeah, I got all of that out yonder in that 1913 itemizer. All the Wagners, everybody went to somewhere for the wedding. I thought they went to Tupelo. Yo. Hey. Howard. Yeah. Somebody turned in a couple of pieces on it, J.I. Long. I've got a little bit of a history on it. Yeah, I would like to, what I wanted, the families to write him up. But somebody didn't Irene Pudding do something. Yeah.
Bruce?
Get it. Is he a Vaughn himself? D.W. Yeah, I'm glad he is. But if he Calvin said, well, listen, I'll come visit him and take some notes. You find out where he lives and I'll come down and pick it up. Yeah, well, there. Oh, when the book gets through, we're going to have the whole community in it, all the history and everything. It's going to be kind of expensive, like $39.50. That's all right. And we'll put your picture in for $1,000. Now we're going to have special dedication pages, and we're going to put businesses and banks in the back and things like that. And if you want to put your shop in it with a picture of your books in it, I mean, yeah, I'll come talk to you about it. Okay. got a picture of him out here with the old Confederate veterans, you know, the last picture they ever had made, I think, on the step out here. And I've gotten a few little leads on him. Some of these clownies, you know, are kin to him. And but I'll tell Mr. Q I'll come visit him. And I appreciate the calling, Odie. Thank you, sir.
Who that talking to you about?
Odie Sheffield. See, I fussed at Odie.
I'll tell you who can give you this whole thing on old man J.I. phone, and that's Margaret McNamee.
Well, you see,
She's not up at Chattanooga.
yeah. Well, she's already done it, a lot of it. I didn't tell him. See, when I asked his branch of the family to do something, they acted like they were mad. For some reason or other, they're kind of embarrassed that the old man married that late in life and had all these children.
Well, he had this record, he had a lot of help.
Well, they didn't even want to talk about it. The little girl at the courthouse, I gave her the information. She took it home and she talked to her mother right up here, who is this boy's mother, Sheffield. And she sent it back and said they didn't want to get messed up in it.
Now, Margaret told me this. Now, you know man John Vaughn. Did you know John Vaughn, Houston's daddy?
Yeah.
He looked like old man J.I. But he said, I knew he was only a half brother to all these others. And he told me, he said, the old man kept sending me to come over here. He said, I've been living with my grandparents. He said, him and my mama potted. And she went to Florida. Married some old man, said she had two fine boys. I never did see him. But Margaret McNamee told me that she ran off with another man and left this baby with her parents. And he raised old John till he was about 20 years old or so, and he came over here to old man J.I.
Well, I knew he had married 3 times.
Well, this last one was old Hall Pulling's sister.
Yeah, Maud Pulling.
And when he married her, he was 70 and she was 20.
20?
Yeah.
And they had 5 daughters.
I didn't know what for. But Dan McNamee used to tell me who was the dad of each one of them. I mean, Mike McNamee used to tell me which one was the dad of each one of them. And one of them sure looked like
I'll be darned. But I just assumed they were all here.
well, most of his kinfolk didn't believe they were.
Sometimes
He
kinfolk.
claimed, though, he told somebody the first 2 was his, but said, I don't do it. He had a stroke and got his voice. He liked to try to work his family to death, trying to get rich.
Yeah. He settled way out yonder in the woods somewhere and had a gin and a.
Right down below Pearl Bears.
On Billy's Creek.
Called it Bibi, I think. Bibi or something like that. But he had some very pretty good land in that little creek bottom that went up through there. John Vaughn, well, I guess the folks still on, but John still had his land. They moved him to town against his wishes. He didn't want to come to town. And they made him clean up and put on some clean clothes and stuff like that and stop spitting snuff on himself. But he'd get enough of that and he'd go back out there. I let my bed out there. I go one time alone.
Well, now, where does rural and all those come in?
Well, the second, see, Houston, John Vaughn's children, I can't name them. John Vaughn had children.
There was a Charlie Vaughn.
Well, Charlie was part of the second crowd. Okay. All of those, Will, as Will's dad. Will and Charlie and Jim and Grover.
And Miss Hall Pullen.
And she was naughty. I remember her when she was kind of an old maid girl before she got married.
Is that right?
And she had a sister, Marty, and Eleanor married somebody named Greenwood, lived in Alabama. She's dead now. Miss Pullen's still living. She's 97 years old, I think.
Yeah, she's down in the rest home, I believe. Well, now, what was Hall Pullen's sister's name? I thought it was Maud. It couldn't have been.
I can't tell you her name. I don't know.
Well, these are nice-looking girls.
That thing getting on we're talking about?
No, I think it's run out.
Yeah. Reverse it. Let's see what it sounds like.
All right, let's see here. I got to stop it first.
In the week, I got to thinking about it, and it's a lot of truth to it. A lot of truth.
Well, we have 3 weeks of vacation, and we try to give a tenth of our money to the Lord. Why not give 1 week to the Lord?
Sarah Christian, her husband and their children work with the group.
We get much more than we put in. We go home, and that's another way to witness to other people. Well, how was your vacation? We say it was great. We were witnessing for the Lord and insulating the Lord, if you will.
The Central Baptist Church of Baytown, Texas has members who have sweated for God. Orchard Farm has a new church building, and everyone shares the blessings of new friends and fellowship. And Keith, for CBS News, St. Louis.
The World of Religion is written and produced by Carol Crawley with technical supervision by Steve Mendelson. I'm Richard C. Hatterley.
That's clear.
Let's see, who was there from the other side here, Matt and me, was sister. There were 2 girls that were home there, and they were 26, 7 years old, so 8.
Well, you see, that's why Sarah Jane McNamee has got that picture of Mr. Vaughn. She's got a good picture of Mr. Vaughn. And his wife and a bunch of children now. It must be in her mother's generation. Her mother was of the second group. Her mother was the sister of Miss
They
Fuller.
were all the second group is children except John. He was the only one by the
By the
wife
first.
in Alabama.
All right. now,
Utah, Alabama.
Utah, Alabama. All right, let's get back over here to these Wagners a minute. John Henry married Katie Beckton, didn't he?
Yes, first time.
Yeah.
And then after that, he married Evelyn Mabry. I think that 1913 wedding, when they all went to the wedding, was up in Knoxville. That was Dap Wagner's wedding, wasn't it?
I think
A.G.
it was.
Wagner.
Yeah. It was.
No, it wasn't. John Wagner went up there and married. Well, now wait a minute. Gosh, that's before 1913, because John Henry and I were born in the same year. I was born in January, and he was born in October. But Mabry was 2 or 3 years ago. That was about 95 or 6, and that wedding took place. Now, who it was in 1913, I can't tell you.
I keep remembering something about Tupelo.
Well, now, Dr. Hood came from Tupelo, but they didn't go there for the wedding. I'm sure the wedding was held here.
There was a reception or something at Tupelo, though,
Well,
a social function. But when they got ready to marry, they went off up to Virginia or Pennsylvania or somewhere.
When I
Or did they marry here?
Who?
Did Callista marry here?
Yeah, she just, her daughter Callista is just, Callista's about 6 years, 5 years younger than I am.
And she's still living, huh?
Yeah, she lives in, Hello.
This is my
Hey,
daughter,
how you
Melissa.
How you doing, Melissa?
Mr. Kendrick. Corinne never
San
married.
Antonio, Texas is where Calista lives.
But I want to ask you something. This is not doesn't require a professional answer, just an opinion. Was not the Wagner fortune the greatest that was ever developed here, or was the Blackburn?
I think for his day, Mr. Wagner died in 1915 and left an estate of $832,000.
Well, that's far and away larger.
He came out of the Civil War and said he had a $5 gold piece. And around the campfire, they were talking who they were going to work for when they got home. Everybody was flat and broke, had nothing. He talked with a soft voice. He said, well, I'm going to work for D.R. Wagner. And he clerked the old man Bristol, who was Gurner Norton's grandfather. Old man Bristol went broke, and then about 67, Mr. Wagner put in the store.
On his own.
Yeah, he built that brick store down there in 68, I think, to sell now.
I have often thought that most of those brick buildings were put up there right after the Civil War.
I think that's getting most of them the next 10 years after it should have
Between
been.
there and 75.
Yeah.
I believe the Oddfellows Hall was about 72. In other words, they just started building on like this.
It is.
One right on
And
the
before that, they had a row of, every Blackman had some pictures of little country store buildings going in and just put a space between them.
I've never seen that picture.
Oh yeah, it's out there at his house now.
Well, I don't know.
And they got these on this stereoscope that you look at it through. I've seen it several times. I've seen it since they had the library out there, asked about it.
They still got it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Now that was, it's got the date on that, but that was about 76. It must have been made above Wagner's store. Because Wagner's store went on, I think in 68. Because we've shown that brick building, it doesn't show it.
Well, now, was he always W.D. Wagner and Company? There wasn't any partnerships involved?
D.R. Wagner.
D.R., I mean, yeah.
It's D.R. Wagner.
D.R. Wagner.
Now he put up, when Dap Wagner wanted to start that grocery company, he said he came down here to visit his mother, and he called Uncle Dan, but he was staying home that Sunday, kind of paid him, and said, talking about, said, well, what are you going to do? Dap, they called him Dap.
Is this Gallatin?
Yeah,
Okay.
Albert Gallatin. Said, I want to start a wholesale grocery house in Memphis. And said, well, you want me to put up some money? He said, well, I sure do. Said, how much do you want? He said, $10,000. He said, all right, I'll be your partner. Said, what's the name of the concern going to be? Dap asked him, his uncle asked him, he said, A.G. Wagner and Company. He didn't put his name in there at all. And it flourished. Edward Wagner used to. I don't think Edward ever worked for A.G., but Edward worked, he might have, but he worked for Mr. Gene, took it after it.
And it was successful.
Yeah, Mr. Gene made money out of it.
Well, wasn't there a candy company associated with it?
Yeah, they had that, what they call it, Chickasaw Candy Company.
Yeah, I believe
They
so.
got a Chickasaw Candy Company. That never didn't make much money. They were the principal owners of this old twine mill over here, but it was always a white elephant except during the First World War.
I wondered if that ever made any money.
During the First World War, they ran 3 shifts. We could go home in town at night up there on Mark Street, along where the preacher lived, where that highway. You see that old mill with the lights still going.
And you know they had a spur track that went across the creek and went over to the back of that thing where they unloaded and loaded cars?
Yeah, loaded cotton hauled out of it.
Now, did Gallatin marry here?
No, he married in Memphis. They quit. He married Mary. A lot of prominent folks up there. And I knew my mother and her sister went to the top of the party room to the World's Fair in 31. Can't tell you now.
Well, now, W.B. Senior married, no, I got W.B. Senior. W.B. Junior, who did he marry? Oh, he Mamie Harris.
Mamie Harris.
All right, who were their children?
In having one, that's W.B. William Buford. And
Well, now that brings,
he just died a year or so ago, and we never heard of him having a child. But the newspaper kind of said left son. I don't know what his name is, but I guess it's William Buford too.
well, now, is this Will Wagner that was killed? Is this the Will? And Will Wagner and Molly Buford. Will and Molly Wagner were killed.
No,
All right, then.
Molly Wagner wasn't killed. Will and Mamie Wagner.
Mamie, it is killed. It's Will Jr. then that was killed, yeah.
Yeah, and Mamie.
All right, this is the man who you picture you won't list it off of that.
Yeah, because sometime they're going to get around putting those pictures up. Dennis mentioned it.
All right.
And I told him I knew where I could get one. But when he died, they tried to find his picture, and they couldn't find one time in a row. But that you've got is a recent, a likeness not too many years before he died.
Right.
What year was that in? He died in 31.
You see, that picture's made 26 or 7.
Well, he looked just like that.
That's when the new powerhouse was built, wasn't it? Or did they finish in 28?
I cannot tell you.
Yeah, somewhere along there. Now here's something I want. I guess I've got it somewhere. Who have been the presidents of the Bank of Water Valley? W.B.
Well,
Wagner.
As you know, the bank was privately owned from 82 to 88 by the firm of Brown and Shackleton.
Didn't know that.
And I am sure that Dr. A.A. Bryant was the then president.
What did you tell me about them? One of them was the mouthpiece and the other was...
No, that's Brewer.
Oh, Gurner Wilson.
Brewer and Wilson.
Yeah.
But in 1888, a group of stockholders formed and bought the charter
I see.
And D.R. Wagner was elected president in '88, and he served until his death on July the 4th, 1915.
W.B. Wagner.
Was elected president in 1915 and served until his death in 1931.
All right.
Then W. Thad Trusty was elected president in 31. No, I need Mr. Walter McClotty back there. Let me get an air in there. We have all them McClotties on me. Mr. Walter McClotty was elected president in the summer of 1931 and served until his death the following February. Just a short time, about 8
I see.
And after Mr. McClotty,
Then,
W. Thad Trusty was elected president in 1932 and served until his death in April of 1967.
all right, and then you served from
Fred Kendrick was elected in '67 and served until his retirement.
1981.
January 12th. In the presidency, I worked on it in July. In the presidency, I worked on
Yeah.
January 12th, 1981.
Ernie was pointing out something to me a while back. He has already been president of that bank longer than Mr. Fly was. Mr. Fly, see, wasn't president just 2 years, 2 or 3. Because Mr. Eddie died in 75.
That's right, Earl was vice president.
That's right. I mean, everybody thought of him as being president. And,
Well, now let's see, Mr. Wagner, let me put this down.
no, I'm just scratching out something.
He from 88 to 15 is 27 years. And Mr. Will Wagner was 15 to 31 was 16 years. Mr. McClotty was a short term from
Yeah.
the summer to the next February. But Mr. Thad Trusty from 32 to 67,
35 years.
35 years.
He's the longest tenure.
And from 7 to 11, 14 years.
But now, being president in Mr. Trusty's time must not have involved being at the bank at all. He wasn't ever at the bank. He wasn't working.
Didn't any of them ever stay at the bank?
That's right.
Because the guy out of me,
That's
I was
right.
already working anyhow.
Yeah.
Mr. Trusty was a splendid, he was a man of good judgment. He was a good man. He sure was a good man. He wasn't one of these fellows shouting happy all the time. He'd give you an honest deal every day.
I've heard that.
And
An honorable man.
he was, he sure was. And he came by there every morning for about 15 minutes to look over the loan application, to prove the ones that were good and talk about some that wasn't so good. But he left there then and go to Pine Valley. He was at a telephone in Pine Valley. So he said, if anybody wants to see him bad enough, they come out there and look him up. If he wants to spend his time trotting to the house to answer the telephone. And he was right. He was interested in rehabilitating that old farm, and he spent a good part of his time going to the house to answer the telephone.
Well, now, was he a successful farmer?
He sure was. Cattle raising more.
Yeah.
He did more farming than cattle. Cattle raising than farming.
A lot of men just kind of flounder at it. All right. Now, in addition to this group of men who were presidents, who were some of the men who were cashiers and assistant cashiers over the years?
Well, the first cashier was Mr. G.D. Abrams, brought here in Oxford.
ABLE?
He left in 1907. And Mr. Bernie Malden became cashier in 1907 and remained cashier till he died in 1942. That's 35 years. Isn't it?
Sure is. Now, he was W.B. Malden?
Yeah, William Bernie.
That's what I thought.
Known as Bernie Malden.
Now, I remember Mr. Bernie.
And Mr. Berryhill, Sam Berryhill, became assistant cashier in 1907, the same year Mr. Bernie became cashier after Mr. Abrams, and remained assistant cashier till he died in 44, I believe it was. Look, cemetery.
He never was cashier.
No, because he didn't want any more responsibility, getting old, didn't want to bother with it, so he made me cashier when Mr. Burns died.
S.N. Berryhill, wasn't it? Well, that's kind of like Barron. He didn't ever want to be it. All right. Now, Mr. Berryhill, he was a local person, wasn't he?
Well, he wasn't reared here. He was reared over at Bellefontaine, Mississippi. Bellefontaine, they call it.
Bellefontaine. And Mr. Malden was local. Yeah, Mr. Abel left here and went where, did you say?
Mr. Abel went to Webster Grove, Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
Operated the bank there.
Somehow or other I had a Mr. Abel associated with organizing that bank.
No, well, from not the original organization, but when the stockholders bought the charter, we still operate under that same charter. It's perpetual. Written in longhand, written by a man Henry Myers, Secretary of State. He was from Holly Springs.
Okay. All right, now after Mr. Berryhill was cashier, then you became cashier.
No, I became cashier when Bernie died.
Yeah, when he died in
Bernie
42.
never was cashier.
That's right. I got you. 1942 until you became president in 67. All right. Well, that's not very many cashiers. That's something. I remember these.
One thing I told Benny, I said, now Benny, I'll give you something to strive for. I said, when I became cashier, that was the top man in the bank, and Mr. Chris was there with about 15 minutes with me. I said, when I quit, the bank was 11 times as big as it was when I got it in 1942, and the surplus was 32 times as big as it was. And then when you come to quit, you take a little seat.
That surplus, what you have to watch out for.
12 sellers, yeah, we got about $2,200,000 surplus. $2,200,000 surplus. I think the way that the loan money today, Bruce, they need a bigger and bigger surplus because they don't. We used to get security for money we loan. Now they just loan it on anything.
Yeah, that's really something. You take this deal here with this fella, Ratcliffe. He just came and went, and left somebody holding the bag. I don't think it was any of these banks.
Well, that fellow, what's the name of that came from New England? That was a high sounding name. One rather.
Oh, the fellow who came down with the pot.
Beaumont came to me and wanted to borrow $15,000 on a house in Connecticut that he already owed $54,000 on. The only excuse I gave him was he's just out of our territory. You don't want to move that far away. But I'm going to tell you, they loan money today on you just being a good fella and a good sign for son too. Well, that's good. He'll pay it if he gets a hold of it. But if times change, you get a charge out they can't pay it. I'm going to tell you, I've told him, and I don't know how far along I am, but I don't know when the thing gets right and the bottom falls out, we're going to have all over, the whole country, all over, going to have more bank trouble and the FDIC can take care of it.
Yeah. But now this bank, well, both of the banks made it through the Depression, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And the
The
people.
Mechanics Bank was a tiny little bank.
Yeah.
About $500,000.
Yeah, just a little fellow.
But I tell Benny all the time, I said, Benny, when we make the money, we got to keep a good portion of it put in that surface, because hell's going to be to pay one of these days. Now, Benny's doing it in good times. He thinks I'm stupid.
Yeah. He's never known 1932.
Sure.
Never has known 1932.
I've done one thing, I cut myself on the back about the other day. All the money I get a hold of is given up by municipal funds, tax-free, and now they're saying buy one at about 6%, and the prevailing rate's 18%. People want to sell that bond, You've got to sell it to make it yield 18%, and that appreciates the face. That bonded maturity will come back to par. I won't be here if I buy them 18 years, something like that, but I just soon leave them bond with anything else, and then they get that profit when the time comes. But there's a program on the radio, the TV, all the same to me. Once a week they have a Wall Street program on there.
Yeah, I like that. Boy, they're
Did
sharp.
you see this now, like, when they had that man about 35 years old, he was trying to organize a company, and they graduated from Stanford University some years back, and he talked about the times and everything about it. Finally, the man in charge of the meeting said, "What do you think is the best form of investment today?" He said, "A-grade, long-term municipal bonds, discount bonds."
Right on the line, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Well, do you know, over in the courthouse the other day, I'm going through the books back in the last years of the century and the first years of this century, and the Blackmer family is dividing up money, and the Badleys mostly, are dividing up money that the squire had in municipal bonds off up in Kentucky or Indiana somewhere. A third of all the interest in that book involve Elijah Badley.
They said he, I forgot what place it was he liked to buy the municipal bonds on, and he wanted to buy the hotel at Tate Springs, Tennessee. He'd like to go up there and stay.
Yeah.
I don't even know what town it's in. That was his, but he was a bondholder then. Now bonds got, in the first part of the Second World War, interest rates got so cheap that bonds got down to 3%. And we bought some out here at the campground just because we were a depository. They wanted to refurbish that school.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And we bought it, we loaned them for 2%.
That's Brandon Jones, baby.
Yeah.
$10,000.
They thought all they had to do was dress up the school and get to keep it.
Yeah.
But they didn't see the overall program was coming on. So
Yeah, just lost all that money.
Super consolidation. But now then they got back, as time went along, they got this at 5.5, 6, and some 6.5% coupon. Well, now you can borrow the bond. I bought some the other day that hadn't been delivered yet, so not due to 97, and the interest earned on the money invested, they'll pay 11.2% tax-free.
Tax-free.
Everything from municipal bonds tax-free.
And that's a lot better than 16, even 16 or 17 and pay taxes on it.
Well, there's bonds, I gave her bonds years ago, that they were United States bonds that mature, 2015. I said, we ain't going back to that anymore. We're going to take some of this. See, she's not up to 17 years either. She's 68. She'll be 85, and she won't have to bother about reinvestment during that time. I won't buy anything smaller than a whole county in Mississippi. State of Mississippi or a whole county. And I've never seen a time when they wasn't good.
That's right. Yes, sir. Well, I wondered about those municipal bonds.
We bought them at the bank now. Then they're not the bank can't afford them. They could buy them if they wanted to and do just like I've been doing. They'd get a big profit at maturity. But
They can't tie up that much money?
No, they can't go on that current income on that current income for the thing, 6%.
That don't look good on the book.
See there, we're lending money. We're buying what they call bankers acceptances, and they're yielding around 18%. And we got to earn that kind of money if we're going to pay folks on these money market CDs 13, 14, and 15.
Yeah. You have to, yeah. All right. John Henry Wagner married Kate Beckton, and then he married somebody else.
Shoot, Neighbor was her name. Evelyn Neighbor. Gus Wagner said John Wagner asked him to go to Knoxville with him to the wedding, and Mr. Wagner had a whole sheet published in the paper about Mr. Wagner and how prominent he was, and what all kinds of village he had. But she didn't say a minute word about me, and I was doing very well, never said the time myself.
He was sharp, wasn't he?
You ever hear him talk?
No,
Tongue came through his nose, kind of like a horn through his nose.
I didn't know him.
He became paralyzed on one side and he flopped his leg, flopped his hand.
Oh, I remember him. Yeah, I remember him.
But how he came to become deaf, I don't know. He was born after his daddy died. His daddy died suddenly one night. And he was born some 5 or 6 months later. Mr. Will was the older one. But that's what Mr. Will, as a child, called him. I think his daddy. I don't know whether he was trying to say Gallatin. I guess he was. Miss Wagner called him Gallatin.
He was sure a young man when he died.
No,
I mean, I'm talking about this man's father, Depp's father.
yeah, he died young.
He died young.
That was right about 70, 69, 70 years old.
And who did George Wagner marry?
Corinne Metcalf.
Oh, Corinne Metcalf.
She was our neighbor, and they were good neighbors too, they sure were.
Well, now, was she a sister to Miss Carly's husband or something?
Yes, Frank Metcalf was her brother.
All right. Then they had George and...
first that they had Gertrude. And Helen and George.
That's all.
Yes.
And let's see now. George went down with the submarine.
Little George Jr.
Yeah. Gertrude.
Married Bill Williamson.
And Dad was that?
H.E. Williamson, yes.
Yeah. And Dad was the third child, didn't you? Second. I heard, back at that time that the doctor had told her she couldn't live. If they knew that much about it, why didn't they save her?
She lived all right till I knew another case like that. This case, I'm thinking about his cousin, married boy. He loved that girl at the time of down the grade. She had books for school and everything. Got out of high school and married. They had this baby. And after the girl got along all right, in the hospital, when the nurse came in to take a blood pressure and they put that band on it, it broke an artery somewhere.
Good day. I don't imagine Don even got by yet. They're going to start a posse out at 5 if he didn't come back.
Very good.
Who was Helen married?
William Abel, A-V-E-R-I-L-L.
Abel. A-V-E-R.
Hartford, Connecticut.
Oh.
They live Tupelo now.
Yeah, I knew there was somebody lived at Tupelo. There's some Wagner lives in Memphis.
And that's Eugene. Mr. Gene's dead now, but his children all live there. Dan is there, and Charlotte, and Charles, and Stuart.
Charlotte, that's the one I sent a letter to. Got no response.
Not the Wagners.
Yeah. Now, this girl won't offer do anything.
Who was?
Catherine.
Well, I put mine down just like it chronologically, just like him. I didn't try to
It's easy to do, and Catherine's got enough sense.
glorify anybody.
I just wonder does Catherine not feel kindly toward the Wagners on account of her mother or something?
I don't know.
She always acted more like a Wagner than any.
I thought she and Miss Jessie got along.
I thought so. See, she's got a good picture of Kate Becton, and I want to go with this other picture out
She
here.
invited Helen over there last year. Come over and spend the day, and Helen went. And they didn't really like Catherine.
They didn't? Well, now, some of them were down here at the bank opening, weren't they?
Yes, Helen was here, and Bill Abel from Tupelo, and Charlotte, and Dan from Memphis. I don't know my name.
He hasn't got there yet?
My grandfather and old man Dan in Pennsylvania didn't live too far apart in county-wise.
Is that right?
Grandpa lived in Chester County. I forgot which county they lived in. Whether they lived in Delaware County or not. Delaware County, Philadelphia.
That town was not Freeport, but Freeburg,
I
Pennsylvania.
believe that's right.
Freeburg. Because don't you remember back in right after World War II, somebody up at Freeburg, Pennsylvania sent a photograph to Ed Scherer at the paper, made in Water Valley on election day, November 1867, and shows a little old town with a little depot sitting down there, and you can see the Hyde House.
That was 76 or wasn't it? When that picture was made.
It was 77, not 67.
Yeah.
77.
And Captain Price's granddaughter painted that picture that was down there hung. It is in the library, I think.
Oh, is that where that came from?
Well, I don't know who it could have been. Now, they all grew up in Freeburg, and that's where their father and mother lived. And old man Philip Wagner lived up there, and Andy lived up there. Andy was a farmer. And George used to say Andy was a farmer. But those men had a sister or two up there, Sis Evans and somebody else. I never knew them. They come down here occasionally and visit. But way back there, it was a very closely knit family. They used to like one another, like to visit one another.
A warm family.
Yeah.
They were not Jews, though. I don't believe.
Well, you not Hebrews.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of folks are Jews are not Hebrews. Jews.
They didn't practice the Jewish faith.
Religion is a religion. Well, they married these Presbyterian and Episcopal women down here. I don't know what they were. I heard they said they were Jews, but I don't know that.
I just wondered, so often, German and Jewish names are the same.
Old man Phil Wagner came down. He was down here when Mr. Will visited. Now Mr. Will, this man was killed. But he wore blue suit. They had a brown hat. He walked bent at the hips like that. He was about very close to 90 years old.
Good night. And he was a brother to Mr. Dan.
Yeah, he was one of the others in the Union Army. Henry was up there.
Yeah. Well, let's see now. I got down through George, and he married Corinne Metcalf, and Eugene. About got them all. Huh?
That's it. I think that lady's name was Wagner. I can't tell you her name.
Did they live here?
No, she was from Pennsylvania too. But she lived in Memphis. Maybe it'll come to me. I've known her name.
But Eugene, I mean, after he left here, he never did come back or anything, did he?
No, he went up there and went to work in the Wagner grocery company.
I see.
And then when I think they bought that Wagner out, that Wagner Shell came to pay. And he operated till the chain stores were coming in. Edward Wagner worked for him. He turned to Gene Wagner, said, Gene, you better sell this thing out this year. Said, the chain store's going to eat us up. Gene said, no, we'll ride it through. And the next year he sold it out. Said, Edward, you were right. Said, they were after us.
Yeah, the little independent grocer.
I believe Ms. Wagner and Gene Wagner's name was Helen. She's not name was Helen. I don't know what her family name was.
All right. Then Dudley was the only child of John.
And Kate Beckton.
Yeah. And he married
And
William
Fair.
Anne Fair, not Williamson, but Fair.
No, Annie Fair.
Annie Fair. Annie Fair. And she was a sister to Mr. Guy and Asbury and all of them.
Miss Williamson too. Miss
Floyd Williams.
Floyd.
She was a pretty girl. I remember her as a young woman.
They didn't like it. They
No, I know.
don't feel bad. See, she was a pretty girl. She was a girl of a good, honest, honorable family. But she had no accomplishments. She had no training in music.
That's right. No social education, see.
And it didn't suit me at all.
But now they just wasn't running to pick up Dudley, you know. He probably did about as well as he could do. I don't remember him too well, but he was kind of different.
He was a little, thin fella. I don't believe Dudley weighed over 110 pounds.
Kind of effeminate, wasn't he, in some
Not
ways?
especially, not offended, but he was neat. And he was an interesting talker, and he was free talker. He talked with a good accent.
He wrote well,
But
I
he
read.
never did in the way of work.
No. Well, what was his income, Miss Jessie?
I guess so. If she put him in business, put him Pete Green's business down there at the store they called the Target. But it didn't last long. They just had a local crowd of young men in there, and you ain't make no bunch of locals. Right there where it's north after Kendrick drugstore is.
He went to the Powers School in New York. I find that in some.
Well, that was a school, drama school.
That's right.
He was trying to want to be an actor. They all thought that they should have some special, maybe endowed talent.
Yeah,
But
talent.
they didn't. The only one of them that had the talent, and then the old man Dan had a good head on it for judgment. He knew a good deal when
He knew a good loan when he saw one. Huh?
He usually say he used a term that's used in that country, not used down here. When a man borrows money, they don't say he borrowed it, they say he hired it.
Hired.
He hired the money. Somebody talking about collecting a loan and they still had Fed money in there and said, well, he hired the money.
But and you remember him a little bit, don't you?
I remember him well, except not being closely associated with him.
Yeah.
He used to sit on the garbage can down, on the rim of the garbage can down in front of the store. He was the best looking Wagner I ever saw. He was a very neat old man.
He's got a nice picture of
He
him.
wore brown suits, light brown.
Yeah.
And had that little white trim mustache.
Yeah.
And he talked with a soft voice, and he wrote in his left hand.
Left hand.
Yeah.
Well, now Will Wagner must have been kind of overbearing. The second Will
He
here.
was just dumb and kind of
Tough.
too. I went to work down there for the bank, $75 a month. Worked 6 months, $75. And I wanted a little more money. I went down that store. I asked Wayne about it. Well, you have to go see Will Wagner. You know, all those they're kind of scared of Wagner. You have to go see Will Wagner, see what he said. I went down and talked to Mr. Will. Well, William and I were the same age too. Well, now, Fred, you haven't been there but 6 months rubbing them hands. And said, now here you are on your wages raised.
But you know, $75 pretty good then, wasn't it?
Not in 24.
It wasn't.
Things were still high. We had a little depression in 22.
Yeah,
but
I've heard of
things
that.
were on high till the real bottom fell out in 29. Up the country didn't fall out here at 30.
That's right.
I think Carl and I went to Asheville, North Carolina. That next summer we stayed at the Cahill boarding house. John Cahill boarding house. He used to feed the Asheville ball team. And good food, but then knew how to put it out. But we bought excursion tickets from Waterville to Asheville Day. Go to Grand Junction and catch the Southern. Mm-hmm. And we said, well, ain't no need to buy Pullman tickets. You can't sleep the first night you're on there anyhow. So we'll just get a pillow and we save that expense. And we said, if the depression is coming on, there won't be anybody on the train. We'll get plenty of room to stretch out. I got half the car on that train. And we might not got a place to sit down.
Good.
And we said, well, they'll get off the car. But bus got off and another crowd got off. He was going to Huntsville, Alabama. And finally, after midnight, we went up and smoked and it was vacant. Had this pillow laid down there, and boy, I was getting ready to go to sleep and good. And the conductor came to the flag and came and said, you got to sit up to stay in here. So then we went up to the Pullman conductor and tried to pay Pullman fare to ride the rest of the way in a bus to Asheville. Well, he said, I'd be glad to have you, but I can't take you on those excursion tickets you're riding on. So
Y'all were just messed up.
yeah, we were so scared Mr. Cahill was going to meet us at the train. And we were there, I was sitting up there. When we got off the train, we were looking in about 3 or so coaches of the engine up front. And fortunately, he wasn't there. And we went in the station, changed shirts, and washed up, cleaned up, and looked better. And they ran a line of taxis out there, used big Buick automobiles, and they had a liveried chauffeur and a liveried footman.
Good night.
And we got in this thing to go up to the Cahill House on Haywood Avenue. It's one of the downtown streets on Haywood Road. And they occupied, they owned the old Air Club. They bought another place. Every year they had the same crowd up there in Florida, down in Georgia. And the big Porsche comes across down one side, about at least 10 feet wide, 10, 11 feet wide. And that Porsche is full of these gals from Florida and Savannah. We pulled in that driveway, and time we got to the back down that car, damn one of them on that porch, they done gone into hiding.
People went to the mountains because it was cool back in
They
those
didn't
years.
have air conditioning at home.
That's
And,
what.
now, it can be hot in the mountains when it's drying up, but when it comes to rain all over the mountains, it's just a delightful. You just can't imagine. You have to sleep on you could sleep on the 2 blankets. And after 10 o'clock at night, you don't have a top to it.